Legendary Passages, Episode 68, The Shield of Eurypylus. Herculean Armor, from Quintus Smyrnaeus' The Fall of Troy. Last time, we heard about the imprint Hercules and his family had on Theban lands. This time, we revisit his mighty deeds and labors, etched upon the armor of his son Eurypylus. During the long years of the Trojan War, many allies came to the defense of Troy after Paris made off with Helen, and the Achaeans launched a war to get her back. One of these allies was Eurypylus, son of Hercules, who bore a shield depicting his father's legendary labors. First were the serpents he slew in the crib, then the Nemean lion, Lernaean hydra, the Erymanthian boar, the golden hind, the Stymphalian birds, the Augean stables, the Cretan bull, the Amazonian girdle, the mares of Diomedes, the cattle of Geryon, the apples of the Hesperides, and the three-headed Cerberus, guardian of Hades. Also engraved was the Liberation of Prometheus, the Centauromachy, the centaur Nessus, the giant Antaeus, and rescuing Princess Hesione from the Trojan sea monster. Eurypylus matched his father's godly prowess as he made war upon the Achaeans, and vowed to the Trojans that he would keep on fighting until they achieved victory or death. The Shield of Eurypylus, a legendary passage, from Quintus Smyrnaeus' The Fall of Troy, translated by A.S. Way. Up sprang with dawn the son of Telephus, and passed to the host with all those other kings in Troy aiding. Straightway did the folk, all batter eager, don their warrior gear, burning to strike in foremost of the fight. And now Eurypylus clad his mighty limbs in armor that like levin flashes gleamed. Upon his shield by cunning hands were wrought all the great labors of strong Hercules. Thereon were seen two serpents, flickering black tongues from grimly jaws. They seemed in act to dart, but Heracles' hands to right and left, albeit a babe's hands, were now throttling them, for awless was his spirit. As Zeus's strength from the beginning was his strength. The seed of heaven abiders, never deedless is nor helpless, but hath boundless prowess, yea, even when in the womb unborn it lies. Nemea's mighty lion there was seen strangled in the strong arms of Hercules, his grim jaws dashed about with bloody foam. He seemed in verity grasping out his life. Thereby was wrought the hydra, many-necked, flickering its dread tongues. Of its fearful heads, some severed lay on earth, but many more were budding from its necks, while Hercules and Aeolus, dauntless-hearted twain, toiled hard. The one with lightning sickle sweeps lopped the fierce heads. His fellow seared each neck with glowing iron. The monster so was slain. Thereby was wrought the mighty tameless boar with foaming jaws. Real seemed the pictured thing, as by Aletes' giant strength the brute was to Eurystheus borne on high. There fashioned was the fleet-foot stag, which laid the vineyards waste of hapless husbandmen. The hero's hands held fast its golden horns, while it snorted breath of ravening fire. Thereon were seen the fierce Stymphalian birds, some arrow-smitten dying in the dust, some through the grey air darting in swift flight. At this, at that one, hot in haste he seemed, Hercules sped the arrows of his wrath. Augeas' monstrous stable there was wrought with cunning craft on that invincible targe, and Hercules was turning through the same deep flow of Alephius' stream divine, while wondering nymphs looked down on every hand upon that mighty work. Elsewhere portrayed was the fire-breathing bull. The hero's grip on his strong horns wrenched round the massive neck. The straining muscles on his arms stood out. The huge beast seemed to bellow. Next thereto, wrought on the shield, was one in beauty arrayed as of a goddess, even Hippolyta. The hero by the hair was dragging her from her swift steed, with fierce resolve to wrest with his strong hands the girdle marvelous from the Amazon queen, while quailing shrank away the maids of war. There in the Thracian land were Diomedes' grim man-eating steeds. These at their gruesome mangers he had slain, and dead they lay with their fiend-hearted lord. There lay the bulk of giant Geryon, dead mid his kine. His gory heads were cast in dust, dashed down by that restless club. Before him slain lay that most monstrous hound, Othrys, in furious might like Cerberus his brother hound. A herdman lay thereby, Euryton, all bedabbled with his blood. There were the golden apples wrought that gleamed in the Hesperides' garden undefiled. All round the fearful serpent's dead coils lay, and shrank the maids aghast from Zeus's bold son. And there, a dread sight even for the gods to see, was Cerberus, whom the loathly worm had borne to Typho in a craggy cavern's gloom close on the borders of eternal night, a hideous monster, warder of the gates of Hades, home of wailing, jailer hound of dead folk in the shadowy gulf of doom. But lightly Zeus's son, with his crashing blows, tamed him, and haled him from the cataract flood of Styx, with heavy drooping head, and dragged the dog sore loth to the stranger upper air all dauntlessly. And there at the world's end were Caucasus's long glens, where Hercules, rending Prometheus's chains, and hurling him this way and that with fragments of the rock whereinto they were riveted, set free the mighty Titan. Arrow-smitten lay the eagle of the torment there beside. There stormed the wild rout of the centaurs round the hall of Pholus. Goaded on by strife and wine, with Hercules the monsters fought. Amidst the pine trunks, stricken to death they lay, still grasping those strange weapons in dead hands, while some with stems long shafted still fought on in fury, and refrained not from the strife. And all their heads, gashed in the pitiless fight, were drenched with gore. The whole scene seemed to live. With blood the wine was mingled. Meats and bowls and tables in one ruin shattered lay. Thereby Evenus' torrent, in fierce wrath for his sweet bride, he laid with the arrow low Nessus in mid-flight. Therewithal was wrought Antaeus' brawny strength, who challenged him to wrestling strife. He in those sinewy arms, raised high above the earth, was crushed to death. There, where swift Hellespont meets the outer sea, lay the sea-monster slain by his ruthless shafts, while from Hesione he rent her chains. Of bold Alcides, many a deed beside shone on the broad shield of Eurypylus. He seemed the war god, as from rank to rank he sped. Rejoiced the Trojans following him, seeing his arms, and clothed him with the might of gods. And Paris hailed him to the fray. Glad am I for thy coming, for mine heart trusts that the Argives all shall wretchedly be with their ships destroyed, for such a man mid Greeks or Trojans never have I seen. Now by the strength and fury of Hercules, to whom in stature, might, and godlyhead most like thou art, I pray thee, have in mind him, and resolve to match his deeds with thine. Be strong the shield of Trojans hard besteed, win us breathing space. Thou only, I trow, from perishing Troy, canst thrust the dark doom back. With kindling words he spake. That hero cried, Great-hearted Paris, like the blessed ones in godlyhead, this lieth foreordained on the gods' knees, who in the fight shall fall, and who outlive it. I, as honour bids, and as my strength sufficeth, will not flinch from Troy's defence. I swear to turn from fight never, except in victory or death. Gallantly spake he, with exceeding joy rejoiced the Trojans.